Hey guys, it's Ricardo with RPT Creations. I'm back with another video. Ever since I've been swapping these Mini Coopers, one of the biggest concerns people have been having is the throttle pedal. As you may or may not know, the Mini Cooper uses a drive-by-wire. It's an electric throttle system. And with the majority of these case swaps, you have to convert it over to cable-driven. Before I begin, I want to say there are two options. You can either convert your pedal to cable like I'm going to show you, and it'll work with, the majority of the K-series intake manifolds and the cable-driven throttle body. However, some people have been successful to retain the factory, drive-by-wire throttle pedal from the Mini Cooper and then purchase one of the Bosch or aftermarket, electric drive-by-wire throttle bodies. And you'll have to create your own custom harness and use a standalone system that's compatible, like the Haltech Elite, Fuel Tech. Any one of those standalones are compatible to use the electric drive-by-wire system. In this case, and for the majority of you that are on a budget, or it's a regular street car and you don't want to get too involved, or you're not good with electrical wiring, this would probably be the best method for you. To me, it's the cheapest and the simplest solution. It just requires a little bit of modification to the factory pedal. This is the route that I've done with every single one of my case swaps. To me, it's just more beneficial, and it involves less wiring. To begin, I'm going to show you guys pretty much some of the parts that I use to accomplish this. And I've also printed out some part numbers and some parts that you are going to need for this swap. I also want to cover the fact that you will be using a first-gen Mini Cooper throttle pedal. For the R56 guys, the second-gen Mini Coopers, I've tried in the past to use the factory R56 pedal and convert it to cable, and it just simply can't be done. So for the R56 and the second generation Mini Cooper guys, you will be using the same exact pedal that I'm gonna be demonstrating with. It's basically a throttle pedal from an 02 to 06 Mini Cooper. The R50, R52, and R53 first gens, they use the same throttle pedal. You can either, if you have a first gen, you can use the existing throttle pedal off of your car. If you're an R56 second generation Mini Cooper guy, you can just go on eBay and purchase one, or your local scrapyard. Just get the first gen throttle pedal and you'll be set to go. It can easily be adapted into the R56. So I'm gonna show you guys now everything laid out, and we'll start from there. So here I have everything pretty much laid out. To start, again, this is my 02 to 06 Mini Cooper R53 throttle assembly. You're gonna need a, I'm using a carbide bit on this air gun. You can either use something similar to this. If you have a Dremel at home, you can use a Dremel. Basically, you're gonna need something small enough to get into the pedal to remove some plastic material. So anything that'll cut into that, you could be creative and use that. You'll see exactly why here shortly. You'll need a pair of cutters, a drill, some small drill bits. You also need a cutoff wheel, and one of the most important things is you're gonna have to go online and pick yourself up one of these 5-point security tamper-proof bit sets, and you will be using it to remove the side cover. There's a few screws that hold down this cover, and you'll have to remove it to access the internal guts of the pedal. Then we're gonna come down to the throttle cable itself. There's a company called Hybrid Racing. This company makes a lot of K-swap parts, but in this case, we're gonna be talking about the throttle cable itself. They offer two different types of throttle cables. The differences is one is a long throttle cable, while the other one is a short one. Now, this will vary and depend on your setup. For those of you that are naturally aspirated and want a cleaner look, I would recommend going with the short cable. This will be coming out of your throttle pedal through your firewall and directly into the your throttle body itself. For those of you like me that are turbocharged or run center feed intake manifold, you'll want a longer throttle cable so you can route this around your turbo or something. That way it's not up against the turbo like the short one would be, and it'll start melting your cable and whatnot. So you do have two different options. These are the two different part numbers for both. Again, depending on your application, you'll have to choose between one of these. I personally have the 0105 throttle cable, which is your long one. So again, this is pretty much everything you're gonna be working with. So let's begin. So once you get your driver bit set, you're going to remove the side panel. You're gonna set that aside. This is pretty much what it looks like once you remove that cover. So what you'll want to start with is you'll want to remove, pop off this rod. You'll pop it out from there. You can push up and just remove that extension. Then you'll want to come in here, grab this by the springs and just pull out. All right, that's going to come off. You can grab this. Once again, pull this out. This whole thing will come out. Keep in mind there is this metal bracket in here. This wall will fall out. So just remove that, put it to the side. You're gonna need that later. You'll wanna come on this back side and pull up on the center sleeve. You'll remove that. Then you're left with these tension springs. You'll wanna remove this as well and pull it out. Okay, now on here, this is kind of a preference. I'm gonna show you what I've been doing that I feel like works the best, and it'll kind of make sense to you as we go along. But if you keep both of these, springs on here, it's gonna create a stiffer pedal. So once you push down on this, you'll feel decent amount of resistance. So what I've tested a few times and different methods, what works best for me and has a nice soft throttle pedal feel is I actually will cut this front wire off and just use the one tension spring. Again, if you keep both, it'll be stiff. This is preference, it's up to you. But again, I'm gonna show you how I've been doing it. And I like the feel of it the best. So go ahead and remove the front spring. You could grab your cutters and just simply cut it. All right, and here we are left with just the one. We can set that aside. All right. Now, this is the important part, and this is what you're going to be working on. So, to make this work, grab something for reference. Essentially, your throttle cable, once it's all said and done, will kind of look something like this. This will be attached here. Your cable is going to come in here, and it's going to wrap around like so. There are some parts here that we're going to remove because they're obviously in the way, as you may be thinking, but essentially all said and done, this is going to wrap around here. So as you can see, this is in the way and will not work. So what we're going to be grinding down and removing with, like I said, one of these bits, is you're basically just going to make clearance, and you're going to be cutting down alongside of here. You're going to be removing all this plastic. That way your cable can have a straight shot and not interfere with anything in here. So let me start cutting it, and we'll compare it, and I'll show you guys. You guys can pause it and you can use it as like a before and after. So you can do the same. So once you finish, you should have something that looks a little like this. Again, you basically just want to remove the material that was here. And essentially, you're just creating a path for the throttle cable, to pass through and not interfere. Don't be too worried about, did you remove enough? Do you need to remove more? Once you start putting this together, you'll see whether or not you need to make more clearance and remove more material or not. But essentially, you just want a clean route for this cable to wrap around. But let's continue on to the next step. Now we're going to be moving on to the throttle cable itself. There's a few steps that we're going to have to take here. To start, we'll be removing this rubber damper. I just simply grab a razor blade. I'll cut this down the center and remove it from the cable. Then you'll have this white plastic clip here. Same thing, we're going to be removing this. Razor blade will not really cut through this. You can grab your cutters or anything that you have around to basically remove that. Once those two things are removed, what I like to do is I will take this plastic part of the cable to a grinder or a bench wheel. And essentially what you want to do, this one I already started grinding. This is an old cable that I had on another application, but this will come squared like you see with some plastic locking clips on the side. What you'll ultimately want to do is you'll want to grind this down to where it's perfectly round, just like this tip here. So you're going to want to remove all this extra material around here and make it circular. The reason is because on the throttle pedal here, you're going to have this cover. You're going to pop this cover off, and you're going to want to feed this down into that hole. But you do want to keep the material up on top, and you'll see why going through. But what you're going to see me do is I am going to open up a slit here, just a few millimeters wide, not too much. And it's basically going to allow me to slide this cable through. And then again, once this is grinded down, this is going to slip down into it. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll continue on. All right, once you get finished with that, you should get something that looks similar to this. I still have to clean this down a little bit more so it's not so rough, but this is just to continue on to show you guys, the next step. So this is rounded off. The pedal assembly, as you can see, I made the little slit into there, and it's basically so you can slide the cable in here. It's going to route like so, and this is going to slide in that hole. All right, and now what you'll want to do is you'll want to mock this up in the direction you're going to want to feed it. And what I will do is I will grab a tiny small drill bit. This will depend on what size screw you're going to use, but just so you guys have an idea, I'll make a pilot hole here and one on the opposite direction here. And all that's going to do is you're going to just want to put a screw on each side just so it can keep this, bolted into the throttle assembly. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll continue on to the next step. Now, before we put this in, there is one final step to this throttle. On this end here, okay, you're going to want to take a drill bit. I am using a 3/32 bit for this. You want to start off with a really small bit and possibly work your way up depending on the size of cotter pin you're going to use, and this is going to make a little more sense as I go. But you want to take a drill bit. You'll want to tighten this up you want to clamp this down on a vise, or if you don't have a vise, just put some vise grips, and you are going to make another hole. It could be anywhere since it's circular, but you'll want to have a hole like right about here to the side of the cable. Don't put it too close to the edge because then this won't work, and you don't want to go too close to the cable. You'll want it right in between. You'll make a hole there, and essentially, I mean, again, this is going to make more sense later on, but then you'll also be making a hole through here. This is the part that is the most crucial that you'll have to be careful with. But once it's all said and done, the reason why you're making the 2 holes, this will be placed here, and then you're gonna put a cotter pin through. That way this cable is secured to this pivot ball, or whatever you wanna call this. So again, 3/32 drill bit, open up a little hole there. And then on this rotary wheel, you're going to do the same exact thing. Now, take your time with this, because if you mess this up, you're going to be buying a whole pedal assembly. It's happened to me before, just so you can take this part. This is the part you want to be careful with, all right? You'll want to drill it up, you know. I wouldn't go any bigger than a 3/32. You'll want to start with like a 1/16 drill bit and work your way up to a 3/32. You'll want to make sure that you start directly in the center. If you go off to the side, this is not going to work, and honestly, it wouldn't even be safe. But you're going to want to drill directly in the center, just above where the plastic starts, and you'll want to drill it onto an angle, like where I have notched here. All right, so you don't want to go straight across. You'll want it on a slight angle, and you'll see why in a second. After that, I took a cutoff wheel and I made this slit here on the plastic on the outside, and this is why. Once you have this all together, the cable is going to come into the pedal. It's going to come down here. This is going to wrap around. The reason why I opened up that slit is so this can ride along here and fall into place. And then you'll get a 3/32 cotter pin. You're going to put it in through here, like so, and then same thing. The cotter pin is going to go through this hole. You're going to slide it through. Then you'll want to grab your pliers and just fold these. That way it locks into place. So once it's all together, now you can see, and hopefully this makes more sense now, why I made that slit and why you go on an angle. The cable will be coming around through here. So that's why it's on an angle, just so there's no interference around the pedal assembly. So once you're done, it should look like this. Once you complete this step here, this is, the rest is a breeze. This is probably the hardest part, I would say, into this whole conversion. There's a few more steps that we need to take before we can start putting all this back together. You'll have this pedal rod here. There are some RC cars that use like suspension components similar to this. My best bet would be to remove this, go to your local hobby shop store, and try to match one up. What you would want is you want to find a rod like this that is 1 inch longer than this one. The reason is because if you put this all back together with this rod in factory form, some throttle bodies, I've noticed when you push this all the way down, it doesn't open up the throttle body 100%. So to compensate for that, you can do one of two things. Like I said, try to go locally and try to find one of these rods that's 1 inch longer or similar. Or you can do what I've always done, which is you can clamp this down on a vise and you'll literally take a cutoff wheel and cut this right down the middle. The reason is because inside of here, underneath this plastic, there's actually a metal rod. The ball on this end is actually metal, and it has a rod that goes throughout this whole thing. So what I've done is I'll cut this down in half. I'll expose the ends, like I'll remove the plastic material so it exposes the metal rod. And what I'll do is I'll get like a 5 or 6 millimeter bolt, and I will cut it down to 1 inch, and I will weld it on each end onto the metal to give it the extension it needs. And then I'll put like you know, shrink tube over it, and you know, heat it up. That way, you know, it looks better. So again, there's 2 ways. You can either try to match one up at a hobby shop or just do what I explained, which is welding an extension rod on there. Once you get this extended, you will have to cut this backside to compensate, because when this is extended and you push down the throttle all the way, as you can see, this one is already on the edge. Once you extend this and you push the throttle all the way, this will hit the back cover here. So you'll want to notch this. You'll want to notch this like so, just so it can give you that clearance when you have this all put back together. All right, so once this attaches like so, after it's all said and done, when you push the throttle all the way, this will come out to about here like so. So this is why you'll want to cut open this back end. So you can either pause it here or just take a screenshot. But again, you'll want to open this up for that reason, because of the extended rod. Once you do that, this is pretty much all ready to go back together. So I'm not going to show you the modification yet because I don't have a welder with me at the moment, but I'm going to go step by step on putting this all back together, and we'll go from there. So we're going to start with this spacer. It's got a little keyway, and it's going to sit down in that hole right there. So this will literally only fall into place. There's only one way it can go. So you'll want to put this in, put it in place. You'll want to grab this rotary wheel, and we're going to be putting the cable through. And again, note that the cable that's left, the one cable, will be towards the back end. The one that we cut will face outward. So to put this in place, this is basically going to spiral in here on the inner portion, like I mentioned. All right, it's going to wrap around like so. And this is going to clip onto the top, like so. All right, should look something like this. Then you're going to go ahead and grab the center insert. What I like to do is I like to put some grease around here, just so it's just not dry friction. And then you'll want to slide this through. You may have to mess with this cable so it doesn't get caught up behind. And then you'll push it through like so. Now you will notice that this does have some keyways inside of here, and it is going to line up in the center here. You'll just have to match it up. You'll see that there's 2 notches close together here. You're going to match it with these 2 keys that are in there. All right, once you line that up, you make sure that this cable is in the groove on the back side. All right, and then, like I said, you're just gonna line everything up and let it fall into place. So my keys are there. Let me turn this more. All right, and it's gonna fall down into place like so. Once you do that, you're gonna grab your spring, you're gonna pull down, put it back into place like so. Once you do that, you're pretty much finished. As you can see, pushing down, and your spring here is to bring it back into its normal resting spot. So this is the reason why I mentioned if you leave both, you'll notice that this takes a lot more force to push down. With the one, it's pretty smooth, it's soft, and it gives it its return spring to go back into place. So again, once you finish that, everything is all back together. You'll go ahead, grab your cover, you'll put it back, you'll screw it down. There will obviously be a screw that's going to be left out of it. It's going to be this one and this one. However, this is just a cover, and the rest of the screws is more than enough to hold this down. And that's pretty much it. Pop this back into place once you get your rod extended, and you'll have your converted pedal from drive-by-wire to cable. Before I forget, there is one last thing I want to mention, and this is particular for the second gen Mini Cooper guys. When you get this pedal from your donor vehicle, there is a trim that this pedal slides and clips onto. It's attached onto the floor of the first gen Mini Cooper. You'll want to get that to make this a lot easier to be secured onto your second gen Mini Cooper. Once you get that trim that I'm referring to, you'll line it up, you'll mock the pedal in place, and you'll want to screw that trim onto your floor on your second gen Mini, and then this will slide onto that trim piece and it'll clip and lock into here. That way, again, your pedal is secured on the second gen chassis and it won't move. If you don't get that, there's kind of another option. I mean, I don't really suggest it, but the Factory R56 pedal, you'll see it'll have a hole here that takes a screw. You can do the same thing. You can line this up, mock it in place. You can drill the hole and then use the factory screw to bolt this down. The only reason why I kind of don't like doing that is because there's nothing holding the backside, and this will kind of wiggle around, which I guess wouldn't really make a difference because when you push down on the pedal, it's just gonna, you know, hit the backside and keep it there. But again, the method that I mentioned with the plastic trim that this locks into is the safest and most secure way on getting this pedal onto your R56 second gen. So I hope this video was informative for everyone that's been asking. And, you know, for those in the future that are swapping your Mini Cooper, you can just use this as a guide and a tutorial on how to convert your first gen pedal from drive-by-wire to cable. So once again, thank you for watching, and I hope this helps.